Astronaut Steve, thank you for being with us today.
My pleasure.
It's a great honor to be with you, sir.
Thank you.
First question, sir, if you allow me to ask about your last mission and being the first submarine officer to become an astronaut, could you tell us little more about your unique journey to commanding NASA's SpaceX Crew-6 mission?
Oh. Yeah, so when I graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy, I joined the submarine force. So I spent 14 years in the submarine force, and the opportunity came up to apply to be an astronaut. And I guess the message came out in 1998, and I was selected as part of the class of 2000. And I didn't know that no other submariners had been accepted before. I guess several had applied. So it surprised me because the space station had been approved, and it seemed like a natural fit. A cylinder in an uninhabitable environment. In this case, you want to keep the air in and the vacuum out underwater. You want to keep the water out and the air in. So it seemed like a natural fit. And so I was selected in 2000. I did not do a space station mission. I thought that's why they hired me. So I did 3 space shuttle missions, and basically then went back into working in the office for a number of years, and the opportunity to fly to space station for a whole increment came up, and that's how I ended up on Crew-6, along with that great crew I had with me. My previous experience, I flew with 3 rookie astronauts, cosmonauts on Crew-6, and so I think my previous experience on the 3 shuttle missions led me to be selected as the commander for that mission.
Thank you, sir. Astronaut Steve, can you provide more details about your latest mission on the ISS?
Absolutely. So this was the 6th Crew Dragon mission, providing an expedition crew to the space station. When we arrived, Crew-5 was still on board, so we overlapped with Crew-5 for a week or so, and that was Expedition 68. And so the Soyuz crew, which was present on board, they had a leak in their Soyuz. So when the new Soyuz came up, it became Expedition 69, and they were up there when we landed. So our entire increment from the end of March, I guess beginning of April, until we landed in September was Expedition 69. So we essentially were the Expedition 69 crew, the 4 of us plus the Soyuz crew. That Soyuz crew spent over a year on board space station for the first crew to do that on the International Space Station. It was just amazing to be a part of that, and they were an amazing crew to work with. But the whole purpose of the space station is science, and we had trained on the ground to work with a number of experiments. There were more experiments that we learned while on orbit, things that we had to do. A lot of science we don't have to interact with very much, other than bringing it on board and then sending it back home. And we ourselves are part of the experiments. We are the subjects, the items to be experimented on. So we do a lot of fluid samples and blood, and et cetera, that become part of the science. So the real purpose of space station is science. On the other side of that, it is a man's outpost in space, and it's been continuously occupied for over 23 years now, which is an amazing thing to think. If you're 23 years old or younger, as long as you've been alive, people have been continuously living in space. And that is absolutely an amazing accomplishment. The engineering side of the International Space Station is, there's no parallel. It's just absolutely one of the most amazing things mankind has ever created. So just being a part of that, Expedition 69, 185 days in space, and the hundreds of experiments that we worked on was really the highlight of the whole mission.
Thank you, sir. Really, that's a long time. Yeah, over than a year. That's really like huge. And a question here, sir. So having spent that much time on the space and with many trips and with this huge experience, how do you feel right now? And do you think humans are ready for long trips to the space?
Yeah, actually, I feel really good right now. You know,
I
we
think
do.
you spent more time than anyone else in the space.
Oh no, I've just done a few shorter. So I've got 220 something days on orbit, and there are some. I think Oleg, who's up there now, may go over 1,000 days in space by the end of his mission. So there's some people who really spent a lot of time in space, and that space Soyuz crew that just landed, they spent over a year continuously in space, which is absolutely amazing. Uh, and you know, and talking to Frank since he's landed, he seems to be doing really well and recovering. We've learned a lot from the early increments as to how to sustain ourselves, bone density and muscle mass. You lose that very quickly if you don't exercise on orbit. So we do load bearing exercise a couple hours every single day, and that really keeps us strong and healthy so that when we get back down to Earth, we can recover. There are things we are learning. As I said, we were the experiment as well. So we're learning continuously how to survive better in space. And actually, what we learn on orbit actually makes life better here on Earth because we better understand how whatever process it is, in this case, the human body works in the microgravity environment. So everything we learn actually benefits man on Earth. But to your point, you know, when we go beyond low Earth orbit to the moon, it's only basically 3 days away. But when we go to Mars, which shouldn't be too far down the road, it's probably 6 months one way to get to Mars. So 6 months there, a year or so in a reduced gravity environment on Mars, and then 6 months back. That long duration is actually within the realm of what people have done on Earth. I mean, we've had exploring expeditions to the Arctic, Antarctic, and early on around the world, sailing around the world, and commercial expeditions for different reasons that have gone over several years. So it's well within the human experience. It's just this time you'll be leaving the planet to do it. So as we learn better how to survive in space, I think we're getting there. I think we're going to get to the point where we'll be able to safely go to another planet, which will be absolutely amazing.
Thank you. As a commander of the historical SpaceX Crew-6 mission, which was significant for the UAE and for many Arab countries, can you share some experience and stories about your experience with astronaut Sultan Nayadi?
Well, Sultan was a fantastic crewmate. He, you know, when we came together as a crew, it was really exciting. I had met Sultan and Hazza in Star City when they were training for Hazza's Soyuz flight several years ago. So I'd known them for a while, and they're just great human beings. So having the opportunity to fly with Sultan was a real privilege for me, and he was just fantastic on orbit. And I got a chance to do a spacewalk with him. And he did really well at that. We had compressed his training because we didn't have time to do his full spacewalk EVA training, and he did fantastic just going out the door. So that was really great to be a part of that. And on orbit, I was always impressed. He's so capable and so amazing to watch work. You know, he's doing interviews in both English and Arabic, seamlessly switching in between. During interviews, during presentations, he did untold numbers of videos in both languages, and you know, his work was just great. And he's such a nice person. It was just wonderful to fly with him.
I saw some videos for you guys, and he let you try the Arabian food as well.
Oh, absolutely. I like food of all sorts from everywhere, and so having the food that came up from the UAE space group was really nice, and they sent up a lot of cans, and we ended up finishing them all. There wasn't anything left to turn over to the next crew even to try. So we greatly appreciated that. Yeah, that was really nice.
Thank you, sir. Uh, Astronaut Steve, with many international programs like Artemis 2, to return the human to the moon, um, how do you see the international cooperation? Bless
Thank you.
How do you see the international cooperation? UAE and many Arab countries involving with Artemis program to return a human to Mars. How do you see that, and why is so important?
Well, it's incredibly important to travel together. I think that the benefits, obviously, the pooling the resources is a big part of that. It's a very difficult, very expensive proposition, and so the more participants, obviously, that there's a lower in the individual cost. But the real reason to do it is the contributions from each of the countries that are participating, because they each bring something else to the discussion. A different way of looking at different problems, a different way of solving certain issues, and that cooperation, that working together, really makes for a stronger mission, a stronger product in the end. I mean, you look at the International Space Station, 16 countries working together. It's been orbiting the Earth for 23 years. It's a real symbol of what can be accomplished when we work together. And a big part of that is the contributions each of the countries make along the way strengthens the overall result.
Thank you, sir. I heard about the agriculture and water production in the ISS. Could you tell us or could you update us on the latest experiments about that?
So we have tried through the decades really to grow different types of plants on orbit. And so they've been, pretty much successful along the way. We've had a couple of times that people have been able to eat what we've grown on orbit. We did not have that chance. I guess we didn't harvest enough tomatoes for ours. But there's a couple of different experiments. There's actually one in the European module that allows you to see the plants actually grow. And so there's a psychological aspect of actually seeing growing plants, which was a part of the science, actually. And then there's another rack in the Japanese module where the plants are being grown behind a wall, basically. And you open it up and it's just, beautiful and green, but it's not, you can't look at it all the time. So yeah, we're continuously learning new things about how to grow plants and potentially learn, as I keep alluding to, we harvest these things, we bring them home, they analyze them, and what they learn again informs science on Earth, but also allows us in the future to potentially be able to grow and harvest and sort of regenerate our own food should we need to in space, which is pretty amazing. Water.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So water is really interesting. When I, on my first mission back in 2008, before we launched, water was a waste product on board shuttle. We used hydrogen and oxygen. We'd combine them in a fuel cell. You get electricity, and water was a byproduct of that. And on shuttle missions, they actually used to dump it overboard. So when space station came along, we would just bring and deliver all the water we created running the fuel cells and leave it on board space station. When they made the decision to retire the space shuttle, we were not, it's really expensive to fly anything to space, let alone water, which is really heavy. So they came up with a system that initially we hoped would be able to recycle about 80% or so of all the sweat, condensate, and urine on board space station and just continuously reuse it. And this year, thanks to some additional systems we've added to the process, I think they achieved 98% for a short period of time, which is absolutely amazing. Because again, what we learn on orbit, it's an amazing sort of, I won't say low power, but it's a very rapid, consolidated piece of equipment that generates a lot of fresh water. And so they've already developed systems on Earth to do that for regions that really had no easy way of getting fresh water from wastewater. But going forward, what that allows you to do is less of the mass that you send to orbit or beyond, low Earth orbit, is water, because water is, essential to human life, and we wouldn't go very far without the ability to recycle and reuse it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's great news. Thanks for sharing that.
It's pretty amazing.
Do you think, sir, we can farm one day on Mars?
Right. I think that's not beyond our capabilities. I think it's just a matter of committing ourselves and the resources to get that done. I think one of the things that has struck me, I've done about 10 spacewalks, and on one of my, I think it was my fourth or fifth spacewalk, we completed a task, and ground calls up and told me to stand by. And so I was on top of the space station looking aft over the Russian modules, and the Earth is passing down below me. And all I could think of was, how is it? I grew up carrying buckets of cement with my dad for work. And here I am sitting on top of the space station, helping construct this incredible platform that is, opening the future of mankind. And I'm looking at the Earth pass below me. What kind of civilization allows us to do that? When we work together, when we focus on a project, it is amazing how much good and how much we can accomplish together.
Right. Considering that you have spent too much time in the space, on the orbit, it's about the same time. And what's the most challenging as a human for Mars trip?
So the most challenging aspects, I think, are us. So committing to do it, we could go to Mars. I really think we could do that now. I think the technology is out there. It may not be the easiest of journeys, but I do think we have the capability to do that right now. As technology continues to evolve, it should get easier and more apparent that we can do this. But really, the difficulties are us. So we have to have the environmental control systems to keep us alive. We just talked about water. You got to have food. The radiation environment beyond low Earth orbit is very hazardous. It's very different than what we experienced on space station. So the quicker we can get from Earth to Mars, the better. And that may, change how we do propulsion. We haven't explored or exploited the potentials for nuclear propulsion, for one, but there's so many other things that if we put our minds to it, we could solve these problems. Now, realistically, it's going to be decades before we get there, but every little step, especially with Artemis, Artemis 2 is going to send man beyond the moon, in essence, and they're going to come back, and that'll be a big step. And then the Artemis missions after that put feet back on the moon, and hopefully to stay, and that will become an international outpost 250,000 miles from Earth. And that'll just be a stepping stone to exploring the rest of the solar system. And I think we're within decades. I hope to be alive to see it. That'll be really amazing.
I like that. I think that will be the headlines. We are ready to go to Mars.
I think we are. I think we could do it. And I joke that some of us are more radiation hardened, having lived longer here on Earth than others. So, you can look at the older, more experienced. This makes all the other astronauts who are younger than us a little angry, but look at the old guys. Look at the older cadre of astronauts.
Thank you, sir. Astronaut Steve, can you discuss the role of artificial intelligence on the International Space Station and in the future space missions?
Well, we don't, I guess there's no easy way. We don't use artificial intelligence as people think about it right now, really in orbit. It's sort of an optimization of decision making. Is sort of how I look at the current state of AI. It's not really independent thinking yet, but it's going to become stronger and stronger and help us with our ability to answer questions and solve problems and sort through data and information, which is really what our brains do, right? They take in all the inputs, all the sensory inputs, and they look at what it has learned before, and you come up with a decision. AI going forward, who knows where it will be, and as it becomes a stronger tool to help us, we will obviously include it in our exploration.
Thank you. I know we're running out of time, so I just have 2 more questions and that's it. And my first one, sir, what's after all of this experience in the space and the orbit, what's your thoughts about UFOs, the UFO?
About UFOs? I have this story. I often get asked the question, have you ever seen an alien? And the answer, no, I've never seen an alien in space, or haven't seen any 3-fingered aliens. But I was at a party one night in Houston, and this scientist came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to see a Martian, an alien?" I said, "Of course I want to see it." He pulled a rock out from his pocket, and that rock was a meteorite they had found in Antarctica, part of a meteorite they had found in Antarctica, in which they found an occlusion that may be an indication of early life form existing on Mars. So I don't think we have 3-fingered aliens. I don't think we've had anybody visit us from beyond. But the probability of life out there in the solar system and beyond is pretty high. So, I am a big fan of movies and science fiction movies, but I don't think we're going to be having the day the Earth stood still coming to life anytime soon.
So do you believe, sir, in any other civilization, and maybe in the future will have the first contact?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. If you look at the math behind it, you have to travel light years, and we are nowhere near light speed travel. So it works in science fiction, and there's we have the math and the physics that kind of helps us understand those possibilities, but the realities of it are incredibly difficult, way beyond our comprehension, and I think way beyond our capabilities.
Maybe one day.
Never say never on that.
Yeah. Back to the movies. You mentioned you're a big fan of movies, and I have a questions from our readers.
Okay.
What the best space movies would you like to recommend it for our audience?
Oh wow, I don't know. There's so many great movies out there. It really depends on what aspects you're looking for, right? It's if you're looking for sort of the biographies and the that aspect, the story side of it, there's a whole slew of movies. It's hard to find a movie that really covers the hard science of it. There's documentaries, the ISS documentaries, which have been several through the years, are really good about that. A couple of them in 3D, and they're really fun to watch. And the more fantastical ones that may have inspired people to explore. That's a whole nother genre. So I encourage people to go find them. There's just a lot of good science fiction movies out there.
Astronaut Steve, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity, and hope I can see you face to face one day, like after or before your next trip to the space or the orbit. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for your time. You're very welcome, and hopefully we do cross paths someplace, probably here on Earth, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, please, we can do that. And Chelsea, she has my contact information. Please, she can share it with you, and please stay in touch.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mohammed. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.